Yeah, I can see Elijah.
Yeah, Elijah, I believe you've had quite a long relationship with, before we start the live session, with Captain Twalib Khamis. So I would request that you introduce yourself to Professor Laila, the Vice Chancellor of Technical University of Mombasa, just for a minute, then we go live. I think he has a screen freeze, so we can just go live at the moment.
Yes, I think so go live and let people in, because yes. I'm seeing a number of messages.
Yes. Okay. So we are now starting the webinar. We are now on the actual webinar.
Okay.
Good evening to all the participants and welcome to the webinar for the Kenya Association of Maritime Practitioners, Kenya.
Good evening to you and welcome to the participants. I can see we have 40 attendees already in. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. So we will start shortly. My name is Mwanaulu Issa. I'll be your moderator for the day. I would now hand over to Captain Talib, who is Head of Secretariat at MPK, and then we can proceed from there. Kindly unmute, Captain.
A good evening to all the participants who have joined us today for this very important webinar in our country as a whole, because it's going to discuss on the Seafarer training and how we could revitalize merchant Navy training in the country and be a leading maritime labor producer in the country and especially in the eastern part of Africa. I would like to hand over to Ms. Mwanaulu Issa, who shall be the moderator of the day. And you are all welcome to this webinar. Over to you, Ms. Mwanaulu.
Thank you, Captain Talib, and a very warm welcome to all of you participants. We really appreciate you having made time to attend this particular webinar. As has been introduced by Captain Talib, who's the Head of Secretariat, the Association of Maritime Practitioners, Kenya. The association has engaged in a number of activities, and one of them was a research that led up to this seminar to disseminate the issues regarding training, particularly on staff workforce related to seafaring. And this is the objective of this particular seminar, to actually look at the outcomes of that report, to discuss the way forward, and to look at what exactly is happening in the industry. And our panelists, which I will introduce shortly, would be able to give us their views and what they feel should be done, particularly on issues to do with the training and in the industry, when we look at the various institutions, the role they play, and how we can move forward as a country when it comes to the maritime labor force. I would like to hereby introduce Captain Twalib, who is the Head of Secretariat. Our chairperson, Captain, would be joining us later, and so he has been on the screen, and this is just to introduce him formally. So Captain Talib Ibrahim is a qualified merchant Navy officer and a maritime consultant, currently serving as a staff at the Technical University of Mombasa. He is the deputy responsible person for the Seafarer courses, and he's also an alma mater of the Arab Academy for Science, Technology and Maritime Transport in Egypt, where he undertook his undergraduate studies. And he also proceeded to the World Maritime University for his postgraduate studies, where he graduated with a maritime degree in an MSc in Maritime Affairs with a specialization in maritime education and training. Captain Talib has on numerous occasions been engaged with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development as a maritime curriculum expert. He's also a member of the syllabus committee established by the Merchant Shipping Regulations of Kenya and the Training and Certification Committee, and he's also a fellow of the AMPK and presently serves as the Vice President Nautical, and is a current chairperson of the Association of Maritime Practitioners Kenya Technical Committee on Maritime Education and Training. And I would now like to hand over to Captain Talib to be able to give us an introduction of the report which we'll be discussing today, and just set the stage for the discussion. Over to you, Captain Talib.
Thank you very much, our esteemed moderator, Ms. Mwanaulu. The Association of Maritime Practitioners did a research and produced and published a report on the status of seafarers training in Kenya, which was disseminated to the major institutions in Kenya, including universities, the Maritime Administration, and also maritime stakeholders. The maritime industry in Kenya in general, and also in the world, is greatly dependent on quality maritime labor force, that is quality maritime human capacity. So the status of this Seafarer report, Seafarer training report in Kenya, delves into the national goals and ambition of the country to be a maritime labor supplier to not only her own national industry, but also the global maritime industry. And this is well captured in public policy, which has been published by the government of Kenya, programs and projects that have also been initiated by the State Department and the relevant line ministry. Therefore, we cannot underestimate the contribution of seafarers to national economic development. And this is a statement that cannot be understated, neither cannot be unexploited. However, maritime education and training in Kenya lags behind global and regional performance by well-developed and developing MET providing nations, which means that our present performance does not correspond to our national goals and ambition to be a maritime labor producing nation, both to power the growth of the Kenyan maritime industry and to supply the global market where opportunities abound for well-trained maritime professionals. Regulatory oversight and the necessary administrative support to MET institutions is mandated upon the Kenya Maritime Authority by the Merchant Shipping Act of 2029. And this is specifically under the Merchant Shipping Training and Certification Regulations of 2016. And the report finds that this regulatory oversight and administrative support has greatly underperformed. This is largely as a result of systemic shortcomings rather than individual staff performance, where the capacity for regulatory oversight and administrative support is very low. And this is not entirely based on the individual staff, but rather the association does find that the individual staff performance is of very high caliber, and the individual staff are more than competent to perform the regulatory oversight and give the necessary administrative support. The lack of understanding of seafarer training and qualification and its appropriate inclusion in the Kenya National Qualification Framework under the Kenya National Qualification Authority has also impeded seafarer professional progression in training and employment ashore. Therefore, this means that the qualification of seafarers has not been translated into qualifications which are acceptable at shore within our own framework of qualifications, which is as a result of our education and training framework in Kenya. Thus, looking at all this, the association calls upon the State Department for Shipping and Maritime to establish an equivalent of the Merchant Navy Training Board of the UK, which is the Kenya Merchant Navy Training Board, which can then be tailored to Kenyan needs. So in order to understand better the Seafarers Training Report, we need to look at the background of seafarer training in Kenya. The history of seafarer training in Kenya goes back as early as 1948, when the Mombasa Institute of Muslim Education, which was then known by its acronym MIOME, was inaugurated. The institution included seamanship and training in its education and training framework, and the Merchant and the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency of the UK, which was then known by its name, the UK Department of Transport, actually issued seafarer certification in training of marine engineers, where the second engineer certification part A was trained in MIOME in Kenya. However, then this went into a lapse, and later on, Bandari College was established by the Kenya Ports Authority, and it's well known today as the Bandari Maritime Academy, to offer maritime training leading to qualification as harbor and small coastal vessel operators. The current status of training in Kenya and the curricula is greatly dependent on resources and funding. Therefore, when we look at the courses that should be available in Kenya while benchmarking with our neighbor Tanzania, we find that for the course of Master Mariner, with or without tonnage limitation, none of these courses are actually available in Kenya, while they are available in our neighboring country, Tanzania. Likewise, the chief mate with area limitation and tonnage limitation, or without the limitation, is not available in Kenya, but is available in the neighboring country, Tanzania. The officer in charge of the navigation watch, OOW deck, the course is available in Kenya as part of the diploma nautical course, which is an academic course being taught at the diploma level at the Technical University of Mombasa and the Bandari Maritime Academy. However, there is no standalone technical course in Kenya for those who are progressing from rating to able seafarer to officer of the watch. While in our neighboring Tanzania and the neighboring country Tanzania, the courses are available as part of progression from the rating ranks to the officer ranks. Also, the rating forming part of navigation watch was initially started at Kisumu Maritime in Kenya. And at the present, it will also be available at the Technical University of Mombasa. And the course is also available in Tanzania. And the same goes to the rating forming part of a navigation watch as able seafarer deck, commonly known as AB deck. Other engineering courses, which is compliant to Chapter 3 of the STCW Convention, we find that the chief engineer courses and the second engineer courses are not available in Kenya, but they are available in Tanzania, while the officer in charge of an engineering watch is available as part of diploma courses at the Technical University of Mombasa and Bandari Maritime Academy, and as degree course at Technical University of Mombasa and Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. However, as we look at it as a standalone course for progression from the ratings in engineering to officer ranks, we therefore find that there is no standalone course in Kenya, while the standalone course is available in Tanzania. We also do not have any course which is under Regulation 3.3 for limitations of engine propulsion power in Kenya, while the same is available in Tanzania. The same also applies to rating, forming part of watch, and also rating as able seafarers. Both courses are not available in Kenya, but are available in Tanzania. The electrotechnical officer course is not available in Kenya, and also the electrotechnical rating course is not available in Kenya, but the same courses are available in Tanzania. The other STCW mandatory courses, which include the GMDSS, when we look at the resources and facilities that are available in the country, we did a mapping of all the resources in the country which were available to us as information, and we found out the following: that in terms of the other causes for global maritime distress and safety system, for both the general operator cause and the restricted operator cause, while we don't have the causes in Kenya, the facilities are actually available in Kenya, and the facilities are available at the Technical University of Mombasa, which is available as the cloud simulator courses, the cloud simulator system, the TGS4 from Watsila, which is available to the Technical University of Mombasa. And we find that the courses are also available in Tanzania. For the other course of personal survival techniques, which requires a training pool, we find that the Bandari Maritime Academy has a pool, and the Indian Ocean Maritime Training Center in Watamu also has a pool, and the Kisumu Maritime has access to a pool. And therefore, in terms of this course, we do find that we are self-sufficient in the country to offer the personal survival techniques, and also the same with the fire prevention and fire fighting and elementary first aid. However, it is important to note that with regard to elementary first aid, the resources are also available at the Technical University of Mombasa, in addition to the other three institutions that offer the STCW basic safety training. For personal safety and social responsibility, we found that in terms of mapping the resources and facilities, the facilities are available at TUM and at BMA. And in terms of the medical first aid and medical care, it's only TUM which has the resources and facilities to train seafarers in medical first aid and medical care, where the university has an NHIF accredited clinic within the premises of the university. And also it has medical doctors within the School of Medicine and Public Health. And one of the key aspects is that the Deputy Vice Chancellor is being approved to be a medical practitioner within the university itself. However, at the moment, the courses have not yet started being offered in Kenya, while it is being offered in Tanzania. In terms of the course for survival craft and rescue boat, the course is currently being offered at Bandari Maritime Academy, which means that we are self-sufficient as a country. Fast rescue boats, there is no institution which is offering, and there is no institution with the resources and facility to offer the course. Advanced firefighting, there is an effort by Bandari Maritime Academy, because there exists the superstructure and the infrastructure for the training. However, in terms of the availability of qualified instructors, the report find out that there are no there are no qualified instructors in terms of advanced firefighting. Hence, we also find that in terms of course availability, there is no such course being offered in Kenya. In terms of security awareness training, the course is being offered by a number of institutions as part of the basic safety training, and we are self-sufficient as a country. The seafarers with the designated security duties, currently the course is only being offered at the Technical University of Mombasa, which also has the requisite qualified instructors. And it's available in Tanzania. However, the course is not being offered in Bandari Maritime Academy. For the ship security officer qualification, the resources and facilities are available at the Technical University of Mombasa. The instructors are available at the Technical University of Mombasa. At the time of this report, the university had not started offering the course, but at the moment, the university has been approved by Kenya Maritime Authority to offer the course for ship security officer. In terms of the electronic chart display information system, the ECDIS, at both the operational level and at the management level, the resources are available at the Technical University of Mombasa as part of the cloud simulator system, the Wasila NT Pro system for training in ECDIS, and also there are qualified instructors at the Technical University of Mombasa. However, at the time of this, of the writing of the report, the course had not yet been offered at the Technical University of Mombasa. In terms of training course for instructors, the training facilities, as at the time of the report, is available at the Technical University of Mombasa. However, the course has not yet been offered at the university, but the course is also available in Tanzania. Also, in terms of the simulator trainer, which both courses are a requirement for approval of a maritime instructor, according to the Merchant Shipping Act of Kenya. The training resources and facilities are available at the Technical University of Mombasa, both as the cloud simulator system and the on-site engine room simulator, but the course has not yet been offered at the Technical University of Mombasa. Regarding the radar and ARPA operational course and also the management course, where it is important to note that the radar operational course is a mandatory course for the licensing of a deck officer, that is an officer in charge of a navigation watch. And that is the students and cadets who are graduating from the Diploma Nautical Science. The facilities are available at the Technical University of not yet been offered at the university. In terms of human element, leadership and management, both at the operational level and at the management level, the courses, the training resources and facilities for the course are available at the Technical University of Mombasa. The instructors are also available at the Technical University of Mombasa. However, the courses have not yet been offered in the country. The engine room resource management, the facilities and training resources are available at the Technical University of Mombasa, both as the cloud simulator system, the TechSim 5000, Watsila TechSim 5000, and the engine room simulator, which is on-site. And at the time of writing this report and publishing of the report, the university had not yet started offering the course. However, at the moment, the university has also been approved to offer engine room resource management courses. And the same also apply to the engine room resource management course at the management level. For the nautical science, the engine room resource management course is substituted with the bridge resource management course. And for both the management level and the management level, the Technical University of Mombasa has the cloud simulator system for use in this training. And also Bandari Maritime Academy has an on-site bridge simulator, which according to information was non-functional at the publishing of this report. The high voltage training, STCW training for both the operational level and the management level is also available. However, the operational level can only be trained through the cloud simulator, which is available at the Technical University of Mombasa, with the availability of qualified instructors also available to the university. However, at the time of the report, the course has not yet started being offered, but as at the moment, the course is already being offered at the Technical University of Mombasa. The company security officer, the facilities are available at the Technical University of Mombasa, and qualified instructors are also available. At the time of the publishing of the report in December 2022, the university had not yet received its approval for the course. However, at the moment, the university has already received the approval for the company security officer course. For training in compliance to STCW Regulation 5, that is training for special types of ships, which includes oil, chemical, and gas tankers. At the time of writing the report, the Technical University of Mombasa, which has the training resources and facilities, had not yet started offering the course, but at the moment, the university has been given its full approval to offer the courses on oil, chemical, and gas cargo tanker operations. So in terms of looking at all the availability of instructors and looking at if in the country indeed we do have instructors commensurate to the number of students or cadets and officers to be trained during the particular year, we then went on to do a human capacity resource mapping in the maritime industry so that we can be able to ascertain, do we really have the capacity or we don't have the human capacity for the training? So the STCW requirement for trainers and assessors is under the Regulation 1.6, which requires that any training and assessment of seafarers and supervision should be conducted by persons who are duly qualified for the respective type and level of training or assessment. This human capacity resource remains a challenge in the provision of MET in Kenya, as it is even in the successful MET providing nations around the world. However, to overcome this challenge, the successful maritime education and training providing nations have established mechanisms for attracting and retaining mariners in the maritime, in the MET sector, the maritime education and training sector. However, the challenge with Kenya as a country is that the majority of the maritime education and training institutions have not proactively sought to resolve the lack of qualified mariners, and the prevailing justification has been the lack of Kenyan mariners in the market. However, in contrast to the myth that there are no Kenyan mariners in the market, MPK is of the informed opinion that the root problem is not lack of qualified mariners, but rather the lack of engagement of qualified mariners by both government and the maritime education and training institutions. which therefore then MPK has accordingly mapped out a pool of competent Kenyan maritime experts who largely remain untapped. So therefore, coming to the main challenges of seafarer training in Kenya and maritime education and training in general, we do find that there are challenges that are facing the country, and AMPK has done a specific audit for the challenges that arises, and this has been put into thematic areas where MPK has audited the situation, looked at what are the challenges, what are the conditions that are required in an ideal condition in compliance to the STCW convention, and what has been observed, and what are the recommendations as corrective action which has been proposed by the Association of Maritime Practitioners. In terms of the regulatory management and administration of seafarer training, there are requirements for training and assessment that are required by the STCW convention and locally, domestically by the Merchant Shipping Act, where the requirements for training must comply to Regulation 16 of the STCW convention, and also courses and training institutions must be approved by the administration, which is the Kenya Maritime Authority. So therefore, we do find that the existing challenge in terms of approval of courses and the training institutions is that the existing framework and establishment at the Kenya Maritime Authority has largely charged that responsibility under the Directorate of Safety. However, this can only be achieved through a dedicated Directorate of Maritime Education and Training, which is lacking under the establishment of the Kenya Maritime Authority as at the time of the publishing of the report. The report also found that the KMS staff level, which is and should be dedicated to maritime education and training in terms of training and certification approval, is below the commensurate critical mass, which is necessary to execute its mandate under the Merchant Shipping Act and deliver national maritime education and training goals. So this has led to the Kenya Maritime Authority not being able to timely conduct mandatory audits of maritime training institutions, and thereafter produce the report in reasonable time. And as mentioned earlier, it is a systemic problem, but it is not a challenge of competence of the officers who are in those in the Safety Directorate to discharge those duties. The recommendation of the Association of Maritime Practitioners is that the State Department for Shipping and Maritime Affairs to establish the Kenya Merchant Navy Training Board to develop, coordinate, and also to promote seafarer training. And secondly, the Kenya National Qualifications Authority to develop and include maritime education and training, stroke seafarer training and qualification within the Kenya National Qualification Framework. The third recommendation is that the Commission of University Education and Technical and Vocational Education and Training Authority to TVETA to consult with professional bodies to ensure training incorporated as degrees and diplomas not only meet the national requirement for training, but additionally to meet the STCW convention requirements for the issuance of officer competence certificates. The next challenge that was identified by the report was in the management and administration of the maritime training institutions and courses, where the ideal requirement is the appointment of a responsible person for the particular responsibilities under the regulations 81.6, 84.2, and 87.7, which, as we had seen earlier on under the regulation 1.6 of the STCW Convention, is the management and the supervision and the assessment of seafarers. So therefore, under this, we find that at the time of publishing of the report, that the Kenyan MET institutions, none has a mariner appointed at a senior management position. And therefore, the recommendation for the Association of Maritime Practitioners is that MET institutions, any institution that is offering seafarer training, needs to appoint a mariner as a responsible person at a senior management position, and that is in accordance with the Merchant Shipping Training and Certification Regulations 2016. The other challenge under management and administration of the MET institutions is regarding qualified instructors in compliance to the STCW Regulation 1.6 in terms of training and assessment, where the research found out that other than the Technical University of Mombasa, no other MET institution has employed mariners on full-time or adjunct capacity. Most maritime education and training institutions engage mariners on sporadic part-time basis and employ non-mariners on full-time basis to be in charge of seafarer training. Therefore, to remedy such a scenario, the AMPK recommends that the maritime training institutions to recruit qualified instructors as required under STCW Regulation 1.6 on full-time or adjunct basis to stabilize and deliver reliable maritime education and training in Kenya. Also, in terms of management, it is required that all MET institutions and any center that would offer seafarer training to offer the training through a quality standard system and not a quality management system as required by the STCW Regulation 1.8 quality standards. Therefore, in terms of looking at that requirement, the MPK established that Kenyan maritime education and training institutions have not embraced quality standard system as required by the STCW Convention, but have bundled maritime education and training under QMS, which is being used by majority of institutions as a quality standard in terms of complying to quality standards at the institutions. The recommendations of the association is that maritime education and training institutions should adopt the ISO 21001, which is the ISO standard for management systems for educational organizations, which gives life to the Regulation 1.8 of the STCW Convention in terms of quality standards, as opposed to ISO 9001, in order to satisfy requirements of the STCW Convention. Also, in terms of medical fitness requirements for cadets in training programs, the association established that no institution requires seafarer medical certificate before admission into marine engineering and nautical science programs. And therefore, the association also recommends that all institutions to ensure that students being admitted for cadet training programs under marine engineering and nautical science programs to be medically fit in compliance to the STCW Regulation 1.9. It is also required that under the STCW Convention, which is competence-based training, that there should be facilitation for practical training, which includes workshops, laboratories, simulators, survival training pool or facility, firefighting training unit, medical training unit, etc. And the report has established that majority of the institution lack the necessary facilities individually. And therefore, the association does recommend that the institutions to seek and allocate required training resources, and also sign collaborations and MOUs between organizations which have the required facilities, both in public and private sector, to help mitigate the effect of scarcity of resources. And this can be done through pooling of training resources, including simulators, sea survival training unit, firefighting training unit, medical training unit, etc. And this also brings the issue of management of STCW mandatory safety courses, which the association established credibly that majority of the institutions, the courses are being directly supervised by non-mariners. And the effect of this is that it has led to lack of understanding of the training objectives and the irreducible resources necessary to deliver the standards that are required, which have brought in cases of even management failing in availing critical consumables required for safety causes. Therefore, the association also recommends as corrective action that all STCWs to be directly supervised by mariners. And one of the items that has also been established by the report regarding the supervision of the courses is that there is a disconnect between training and industry practice, which the association does recommend that the training institutions to consult and engage industry stakeholders and practitioners to enhance quality of training and also to align the training to the industry practice. In terms of infrastructure and training resources, the association establishes lack of commensurate material resource for sustainable growth of MET in Kenya, and therefore the institutions, as part of corrective action, should seek and allocate training resources, and this can be done through collaborations and MOUs between organizations with the required facilities, both in public and the private sector. And the lack of effort to pool and attract the human resource in terms of training resources is of major concern, and therefore the association also recommends to the maritime training institutions to engage professionals on adjunct basis to stabilize and deliver reliable MET training in Kenya. One of the major challenges that we do have in Kenya for our trainees is that the sea time is not, the sea time slots are not adequate in the country, where the country does not possess a facility for sea time training. The cadets therefore are left to scramble for limited training berths offered by local ship management companies and ship owners. And therefore, the association recommends as a corrective action that, one, the Kenya Maritime Authority to initiate incentives to ship owners and management companies to enable provision of training berths for cadets. The Kenya Maritime Authority also to seek amendment of the Merchant Shipping Act to establish a registry, an open registry, and to attract ship owners to register ships in Kenya. And also the Kenya Maritime Authority to develop cabotage regulations to necessitate placement of Kenyan seafarers on board locally owned or operated ships. And in terms of the maritime education and training institutions, the association does recommend that the institutions initiate partnerships and collaborations with ship owners and managers locally and globally to seek placement for cadets, and also to engage the government, the relevant state departments and agencies and international development partners in seeking for a Kenyan training vessel. Thirdly, the Kenya National Shipping Line should be able to acquire commercial ships to provide training and employment of opportunities to Kenyan seafarers, and this may be achieved through purchase of ships or through bareboat charters. Therefore, when we look at in terms of the qualified instructors in accordance to the STCW convention ratio, as at November 2022, we do find that in terms of the short courses, the Bandari Maritime Academy does have qualified instructors in terms of the short courses, as at the time of the report. The KNCP at the time of the report did not have mariners who are qualified for the short courses. Neither was the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. Neither was Technical University Mombasa as at that time. However, reports that have been sent to the Secretariat does establish that at the present, Technical University of Mombasa has acquired the necessary expertise for the short courses. For the Artisan Seafarer course, it was only being offered at the Bandari Maritime Training, the Bandari Maritime Academy. The craft certificate and nautical science was being offered only in terms of nautical science at Bandari Maritime Academy, and marine engineering craft certificate was being offered at the Bandari Maritime Academy and the Kenya Coast National Polytechnic. The diplomas in terms of nautical science were being offered at Bandari Maritime Academy and the Technical University of Mombasa, and marine engineering diploma was being offered also at Bandari Maritime Academy and Technical University of Mombasa. Degrees were only being offered at only 2 institutions, whereby the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology offers the Bachelor of Science in Marine Engineering, which is a 5-year course, and the Technical University of Mombasa is offering the degree in Marine Engineering, which is a Bachelor of Technology, and it is a 4-year course. Qualified instructors and lecturers, which excludes part-time staff, but also includes the adjunct staff as full-time staff, academic staff. In terms of nautical science, the Bandari Maritime Academy, at the time of the publishing of the report, does not hold any nautical science qualified instructor who is engaged full-time or adjunct. Neither is the Kenya Coast National Polytechnic or Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. However, the Technical University of Mombasa at the time of the report had 2 qualified instructors in nautical science. In terms of marine engineering, Bandari Maritime Academy and the Kenya Coast National Polytechnic did not hold at the time of the report full-time qualified instructors holding COCs in marine engineering. However, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology and the Technical University of Mombasa each had 1 full-time or adjunct lecturer qualified as a mariner, as a marine engineer officer, as at the time of the report. In terms of all the facilities that are required, a mapping was generally done in terms of the nautical science and safety and marine engineering, whereby the report established the availability of survival training pool only at the Bandari Maritime Academy, firefighting unit, which can be used at the basic firefighting training unit at Bandari Maritime Academy, with none of the other major institutions having. the same facility, while at the same time, the firefighting unit was established that it cannot be used for advanced firefighting training. The elementary first aid was established to be available, the facilities at Bandari Maritime Academy and at the Technical University of Mombasa, and medical first aid and medical care established to be only available at the Technical University of Mombasa. Both Bandari Maritime Academy and the Technical University of Mombasa do have a seamanship workshop, and navigation room or lab was only available at the Technical University of Mombasa. And in terms of nautical simulators, the bridge simulator was available on site at Bandari, and cloud simulators were available at the Technical University of Mombasa for the bridge simulators, the GMDSS simulator, ECD simulator, RADA, and ARPA, with liquid cargo handling simulators only available at the Technical University of Mombasa, and survival and rescue boats not available in the country. In terms of marine engineering, the report established that control and instrumentation lab were available for all the major institutions. However, the marine engine room simulator was only available to the Technical University of Mombasa, with Jomo Kenyatta and TUM having thermodynamics laboratory and electrical laboratory and electrical machines lab and electronics lab, and high voltage and switchgear simulator only being available at the Technical University of Mombasa, while machine workshop for marine engineering was available at all the institutions. In terms of marine auxiliary workshop simulators with all the requirements, this is an area where majority of the institutions individually lack these facilities. However, as stated, the institutions can have collaboration agreements with each other so that they can be able to supplement what they have with each other. Therefore, in terms of looking at the policy level that do affect maritime education and training in Kenya, the association went on to do a comparative analysis and examination of the maritime content at policy level, where the comparison was based at showing how many nautical captains and marine engineers are available and the members of boards of different maritime agencies. And the following was established by the research: that the Kenya Maritime Authority Board at the time of the report had no mariner sitting in the board. It had no shipping professional sitting at the board. However, the acting director general was qualified in transport, logistics, and shipping. The Kenya Civil Association, if we look at the Kenya Civil Association, we do find that there is relevance in the composition of the board, where the board has 2 aviation captains and 3 aircraft engineers, and the senior management, the director general, is qualified in aircraft maintenance engineering, which is relevant to the particular mandate of that agency. The National Construction Authority had 2 quantity surveyors, 2 engineers, 1 architect, and 5 representatives of the different segments of the industry, and the executive director was qualified in civil engineering. So we also do find that in terms of the mandate of the National Construction Authority, we find that the board is holding the relevant qualifications, and also the senior management is holding the relevant qualification. So then when we come to the other agencies or the state corporations, we find that the Kenya National Shipping Line has 2 captains. However, the 2 captains are non-Kenyans representing the interest of MSC. And the senior management the MD is not qualified in maritime and shipping, does not have maritime and shipping background. The Kenya Ports Authority, at the time of the publishing of the report, we find that the board composition had a shipping professional and also one professional in terms of maritime domain awareness, while the MD did not hold qualifications relevant to marine and port operations. The Bandari Maritime Academy board had Marina, one, and also one maritime lawyer, while the director or the CEO does not have a maritime background. Therefore, we do find that in terms of the policy level, that the major maritime agencies in the country at the policy level have very little representation of the maritime sector. And therefore, we find that in the Maritime Education and Training Policy report that has just been released, that one of the weaknesses that has been put in terms of the weaknesses affecting delivery of MET is insufficient qualified and competent personnel in specialized skills, including instructors and assessors. The Association of Maritime Practitioners do affirm and confirm that the country does not have insufficient qualified and competent personnel, but rather the weakness is in the institutions approaching and lobbying for the qualified and competent personnel in maritime education and training who are readily available to join those institutions as adjunct lecturers and also as instructors. And therefore, this report in brief shows what are the challenges of maritime education and training in Kenya, the observed conditions, and what corrective actions can be taken by the different agencies to remedy the challenges that we do have as a country in terms of seafarer training. Over to you, our moderator, Manaul.
Thank you, Captain Talib. I think that has been quite a comprehensive overview of the report. And as you have stated, this particular research was conducted and compiled as of December 2022, which is something that I felt would like to highlight. And so some of those particular situations or conditions or particular emphasis might have changed. For example, I noted at the time of report, KPA, the head of the institution was not a marina. Right now, this situation has changed. So generally, looking at that report, which I believe we'll be able to share as AMPK to the participants, has looked at the courses offered, the various institutions that have been offering these particular courses, the facilities in terms of the simulators, for example, the labs, the infrastructure to support the offering of the courses, also the resources in terms of human resources, the trainers who are then required as per STCW to hold certain standards or minimum qualifications to be able to deliver these courses. We also looked at the policy issues affecting the implementation or the delivery of the training as far as the seafarer courses and the relevant courses. So this report basically has covered quite a bit when it comes to what was the situation in the industry, the gaps, and the way forward. And at this juncture, I would like to open up the floor to my panelists and give them an opportunity to be able to react to the report, to give their feedback, to give their recommendations, and we will then come to the audience after we finish with the panelists. So if you have any questions, panelists, I would request that you can actually send your messages in the chat and I'll be able to pick them up. I would like to, at this point, invite Professor Laila Abubakar, who's one of our panelists today. She is the current Vice Chancellor at the Technical University of Mombasa, TUM, and she has steered the university's maritime programs, with her most recent achievements being the approval of the university's STCW courses, The university also pioneered the STCW compliant oil, chemical, and gas tanker courses, which was approved by the Kenya Maritime Authority. And in addition to this, also established marine engine room with a full simulator, which is equally significant, what we find that in significance to the integration of the cloud-based full mission navigation and liquid cargo handling simulator training, has set TUM as a pioneer in the provision of a world-class based marine training institution in this particular region. Professor Leila, welcome, and I would really like us to have your reactions to the report. And if you can also focus on, from your perspective, as a person being in the education field, TUM has been offering these courses for a number of years, and we can see that there's been a lot of interest in the industry. When you look at the blue economy, the government has put up a number of policies. We're in the process of actually concluding the National Maritime Transport Policy and the Maritime Education Transport Policy, which public participation was being done a few weeks ago. So what are your views and what are your reactions to this report? Thank you. Welcome, Professor Leila.
Thank you very much, Manaulu. First of all, I would like to really thank our presenter, Talib. That was a very, very elaborate presentation. And I think I had some slides to project, but after that elaborate report, I'm just thinking otherwise, because there was a lot that you have already indicated and you have already told us. For now, what I would want to tell you, Manaulu, and the participants, is that Technical University of Mombasa, as you heard earlier, is the one which actually initially, way back in 1948, started the trainings. And we feel that somewhere along the line, we don't know what happened to Kenyans, and you can see that Tanzania now is so far ahead of us. So we need now to change the dynamics, and as we've seen now that the government has taken a very, very important to me by the fact that they had actually created the ministry this time. It just shows that the government is very, very serious and passionate about the maritime training. And I think we need now to take up that challenge. Now the ball is in our court. And as you rightly said, that with us as in TUM, we are trying as much as possible to facilitate and to also have collaborations with organizations, like-minded organizations. Currently, as you have heard, we have a number of staff who we've taken abroad for training. We have staff who is already at Alexandria University in Egypt doing his PhD, and he was there for his master's also. And so to me, I feel that, and many others whom we are already training. So these gaps which we've just had, I think we are addressing them. And you can see, as I said, the government is also passionate about the blue economy and the issues of logistics and so on. So I think, as I said, because of the elaborate presentation, mine is just to say there are a number of places whereby we have actually made a difference and we have made some changes. I don't know whether I will be able to share these my slides, but I think because of also the time constraint, maybe I will just want to just inform our panel, our participants that in Mombasa or in Kenya, we are having these trainings, and even by last week, because you know the problem here is that for our trainings, we need to have the approvals by the Kenya Maritime Authority. So TUM works closely with Kenya Maritime Authority. This is in compliance with the Merchant Shipping Training and Certification Regulation of 2016, whereby the approval of any marine-related courses needs to be approved by the Kenya Maritime Authority, and also the approval of the institution itself to offer these courses. So we have actually worked very, very closely with KMA, and sometimes it takes a while before our programs are approved. As has been pointed, for the engineering programs, to me, that's our niche, and we do have a number of, in fact, currently we have many students like this intake who have applied for both the nautical as well as the marine. The nautical degree course has been with the maritime, with KMA, and we hope it will be approved soon. So just to sum it up is that we are actually making sure that we are abiding by the regulations and providing funds. Now with the university, as you are aware, Manaulu and everyone in Kenya, we've had our own share of problems as universities when it comes to funds from the exchequer. But now we have the new funding model, and we hope that we will have enough money, because it's a cost-intensive program. Most of the programs in marine and maritime, they are very, very costly, and the equipments and also the things that are required, and even the training of these people, because we are trying to get people from the industry, but you have to also pay them well in order to attract them. You have to give them good packages in order to attract them to the institution. So as I said, as a Vice Chancellor of Technical University of Mombasa, we're doing our level best, and there's a lot that we have done actually to be able to bridge that gap. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Leila. Just to touch on something that, if you can allow me to ask one of the questions that has been posed. Currently, the current curriculum involves a lot of a lot of training, but a lot of it is actually in theory. And when you look at the kind of graduates we are churning out, where they're required to have sea time, what is your view? How do you think we can bridge the gap between the training and the sea time, where we need cadets to have the actual sea time and to be competitive out there? When you look at shipping, it's an international career. So we're having graduates that then, yes, our programs could be really up there, but what are we doing in terms of the practical aspects for them to get experience and to be able to compete with other countries? In your view, how do you think we can improve on this? Of course, we've had the report addressing issues to do with ship ownership, having a registry that can incentivize ship owners or industry to be able to take some of our cadets on board or provide sea time or provide the actual training required. Thank you. Over to you.
Yes, I think to me that is very critical, and there's no way you can train someone in marine or maritime and you're not exposing this person to sea time. So that's very important, and it has been a challenge. But I'm happy that, as I said, Kenya now is opening up, and we are having a number of ships within our midst now. And we have had, actually, we are grateful because most of our students now have been able to be taken up by this industry, and they have been able to get the sea time. I know that maybe it's not enough considering the numbers that we are churning out as graduates, but I think with the collaborations that we've been having and the willingness now of the ship owners to actually allow these students to join them, on attachment, so that they can actually get that exposure. I think we're getting somewhere, and we've had a number of students. I don't have the statistics, but I think, Twalib, you could be having some statistics of our students who have actually been engaged by the ship. So we are trying, and one way also is to come up with memorandum of understanding, so that we can be assured that the industry is already appreciating, and whenever there is a slot that will allow our students to be on board. But we've had a number of our students who have actually been able to get positions and acquire seat-time training.
Thank you very much, Professor Leila, for those insights. I would now want to give the floor to our next panelist, Captain Twalib Hamis. And Captain Hamis is a qualified Captain Hamis is actually the owner of Lamu Shipping. He has extensive industry knowledge and has previously worked in the industry in various capacity. He is a seasoned mariner and an experienced port and maritime specialist with over 3 decades of experience in the maritime industry. In addition to being a qualified master mariner, he also holds a Master of Science degree in port management and administration. He's currently the CEO of Lamu Shipping and brings on board a wealth of experience in the industry. And in terms of seafaring experience, he's also a seasoned seafarer. He will address the perspective of the ship owner, perspective, the operators, and the employment of seafarers from where he sits. So I would like to give the floor to Captain Twalib.
Thank you very much, Manalulu. And I would like to also commend Talib Ibrahim for a very comprehensive report, a summary of the report on this status report on seafarer training. And also to commend the president of AMPK and his team for preparing this report, which is quite comprehensive. And myself also had a presentation to make out, just a few slides, which I can share on the screen. Basically touching on what has been said by both Talib and Professor Laila Abubakar on the maritime training. So I'll just share the slides. If you can enable.
Okay, just a minute, we will get you the sharing rights.
Okay.
Yeah, as the rights are sorted out, you can proceed. I think the host is just allowing you to share in a minute.
Okay.
Captain Talib, are you able to allow the current presenter to share screen, please?
Okay,
yes,
so
I'm able to do it. Let me do it. It's done. Captain Twalib Hamis can share.
yeah. Okay, so sorry about that. Mine is just to give a few points on the ship owners' perspective on maritime training. And a lot of these points have been pointed out by the presentation that was made by Talib. The presentation that is painted a not so good picture of maritime education in Kenya. So the few slides ahead will cover the overview of maritime training, the key trends in the maritime industry, the unique aspects of maritime training, challenges in maritime training, and the ship owner's perspective in recruitment. And then we'll give some recommendations as far as the ship owners are concerned. So as the global maritime traffic grows, maritime training will continue to be important to produce skillful and competent manpower so that we can support and boost the development of this sector. There's been a number of studies that has been done by international firms such as BIMCO, ICS, they're all indicating that demand will surpass supply of as far as seafarers are concerned in the next 10 years. This is a big opportunity for countries like Kenya to take this advantage and train competent seamen to meet this demand. We also need to look at, apart from the demand that is going to be created, that there's issues that we need to take into account, and that is the issue of technological advancements. Our training has to take into account that ships are growing in size and they're becoming much more sophisticated. There are issues of the climate changes. All this needs to be taken into account in our training. The unique features of the maritime training, which has been pointed out, that is competency-based, it's lengthy and diversified, therefore quite an expensive training, and therefore we need a lot of cadets now are sponsoring themselves on this training. They find it very difficult to go with the training because of the expenses. And then there's the need of the practical training on board or the sea time. It has always been a thorny issue and continue to be a thorny issue. Although there has been a number of shipping lines that are offering sea time berths on board, but this is not enough because the number of cadets coming out every day, we get a lot of requests from cadets requesting for sea time training. So when we are looking for seafarers, the ship owners actually look at the knowledge and skills and competency of the crew. But the most important aspect is the crew costs, which form a very important component of the operating costs for ship owners. So we have to know that we are competing with other nations. So the crew costs, we have to maintain the crew costs at low level, and the cost of placing crews on board has to be low. And then availability of training institutions. A lot of the countries, they don't have adequate training institutions. We have 3 training institutions now, but as we have seen from the report that these institutions are not offering a lot of the courses that are required, and the mandatory STCW courses and of the certificate of competencies up to class 1. And also we need to look at the government policy and the legal consideration as far as the recruitment of seafarers and placement of seafarers on board vessels. So my recommendations is that there's been a lot of positive change in the last 5 years or so, and that has led even to the creation of a ministry that look at the maritime issues, as Professor Laila has said. But we need now to cultivate interest in our youth to take up the seafarer career. And this can be done by introducing some maritime subjects in the school curriculum, and also promote the STEM education training. We can also, this AMP can do something about promoting Sea Scouts. We used to have the Sea Scout schemes at one time. We can now promote them again so that we have Sea Scouts to encourage our young, the youth to take up this career. What has come out is that we have issues with our training institutions, but those training institutions must also have quality students, must have very good students who have good grades. Well, in that way, we can produce qualified mariners who can compete with other mariners from other countries. So we also, it's important to launch the Go to Sea campaigns. I can see Kikobe and other organizations have started these campaigns to encourage people to go to sea. But the issue of sea time, the availability of vessels for the sea time is still a problem. Another proposal which I would like to make is that there is a very important need to establish an interagency committee to address the issue of the sea time, so that we can approach ship owners or the major shipping lines to admit our cadets on their vessels. Countries like India train nearly 1,000 cadets annually on the major shipping companies like Maersk and MSC. So if we can get at least 200 or 300 cadets trained annually, that is really help and improve the future of maritime training. We've also proposed in the past to establish a Merchant Navy Training Board. This is where the ship owners and the industry and the Maritime Authority and the government can sit down and chart out the future of training, the requirements, the current requirements of training in the industry, and also look at the future requirements for the Merchant Navy training for our youth. And enhance maritime training institutions. The report has shown that we lack capacity, especially trainers, maritime trainers, qualified master mariners and chief marine engineers who can take up positions to train cadets and the marine officers there. What we need to know is that the training for the Merchant Navy is actually designed for shipping lines. And therefore, if we do not have ships will always have this problem of sea time training. So one way to address this problem is to look at getting a second register, or to open up the Kenyan registry and then put up a condition that with that register, anyone who wants to register his vessel using the Kenyan flag, then he has to recruit Kenyans. I know it's a bit difficult, but I know certain countries have done that, and it has really helped them to get their cadets and even officers to work on these ships. So that is something which Maritime Authority, the Kenya Maritime Authority, can take up, to set up a second register for Kenyan ships. And with that now, we'll immediately have Kenyan vessels where we can train our cadets. So I think those are a few remarks which I have made. And of course, I will participate as a panelist in further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Captain Twalib. I think those are good insights coming from a ship ownership perspective. Of course, you have mentioned that for you, it's about the cost implication, that you need to, when you're crewing your ships, the cost has to make sense. And another thing I picked up from you is the suggestion that the approaches by the ship owners, particularly when it comes to taking on cadets, this can be done through a number of incentives from the government side, from the regulator side, having a registry that and then can absorb some of these cadets to be able to be taken on board so that they can get their sea time. Of course, the training requirements, we need to have, as you've rightly said, we need to have a requirement mapping. What are the industry needs versus the kind of graduates we're churning out? Are we churning out graduates only for certain particular positions? Are we churning out graduates for deck positions? When we look at the report, I noted that Tanzania seems to be training on almost each and every aspect. Meanwhile, for us, we don't seem to have enough courses being offered. So when we look at the demand, the future demand, how do we then prepare the industry so that we're able to churn out graduates who can fill in the actual demand? There's a lot of emphasis, I think, in the last 5 years, we've seen a lot of emphasis on the blue economy and the various sectors. So now, particularly on seafaring, are the universities, the courses they're offering, are they able to then rise up and meet the industry in terms of demand? Are the students being trained when they come out, are they able to work with the new technology? I mean, there's a lot of changes in the industry. There's issues to do with decarbonization. There's autonomous ships coming up. So what exactly are we preparing to ensure that everyone plays a role to have quality graduates and also to be able to train people who then can basically work on board from an international perspective, because shipping is global. I would now, we can actually see a number of reactions on the chat. Florence is saying, I agree, for this industry to thrive, there should be a well-integrated system or collaborations between the academicians, the regulators, and the operators, that is the ship owners. As an operator, I have seen lack of collaboration, especially within the academicians, e.g. JKUAT and TUM, when sourcing for attachment for the students. She's also asking whether we have a JKUAT representative in this forum. I believe the invite was sent out to almost all training institutions, and we will also be able to share the report of this forum to the institutions, the relevant institutions. There's also someone called Moses who's asking about marine engineering graduates. Are they supposed to register with Engineering Board of Kenya as graduate engineer? Please make a follow-up with EBK so we can register ourselves. That is well noted. Someone also, Omar, was asking how many sea time opportunities does Lamu Shipping offer per annum? And I think this is what we're saying, that when we have the private sector incentivized, if we have 10 more Lamu Shippings existing, we'll be able to take as many cadets as possible. So if time allowing, I think we'll be able to come back. I can see Captain Giuseppe Fedele Messina is online, and we'd like to acknowledge his presence. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Actually, the attendance is quite something today, and as AMPK, we really appreciate you making time to be here with us, and we can assure you that we'll be having more interactions in future. Watsila is also on. Mr. Sharma from Watsila, I can see he's also attending, and we'd like to acknowledge your presence. Thank you, sir. So allow me to now move to our next panelist, so that then we can also have his reactions. I would like to now introduce, just give me a minute. I would like to introduce Elijah Mbaru, who is the chairman of ICS. And Elijah has also had experience in the industry previously working from a shipping line. And he also sits on a number of committees and is also a member of the AMPK. Kindly, Elijah, if you can please go ahead. We'd like to appreciate your reaction, your comments to this report today.
Thank you so much, Manaulu, and those who have made this session possible. Captain Twalib, our president of APMK, the panelists, yourself as a moderator, Manaulu, and our audience. I think I'm very excited with this, with what is happening today. And I mean, the commercial shipping and maritime industry being an international thing by nature. I'm so impressed by the way we are awakening up and seeing that we can bring up our institution. For example, 10 years ago, we could not see Bandari functioning, Technical University of Mombasa, JKUAT, and all those other training institutions, including the institution that I represent and others that offer commercial shipping, apart from those that offer the training of architecture and the marine engineering. I would like to mention something, the importance of seafarers. I think majority of the issues have been mentioned by the previous speakers, but I would like to reiterate the thematic thing that I've learned today, that we need on an urgent basis to establish a maritime training board, MTB. And this board must constitute a seafaring personnel, but I would also wish that we also include the people from the commercial shipping. And having had some previous engagement with the shipping line, I think we have seen that this thing of cadetship is doable. We did it, we did a trial, and it is workable. And I would like to commend the international shipping line that are calling Mombasa, including the shipping line that I was working with, PIL, CMA, MSC, MASC also. They have been taking a number of cadets. But from my seat, my urge on how we can move forward and very quickly from where we are, because we have made a lot of strides. If you look at where we were maybe a decade ago and where we are today, especially talking of the Bandari Maritime Academy. You can see that today Bandari Maritime Academy has proper training staff. They have got proper equipment for the students to train, and the ecosystem that is there, the ecosystem that has been created, especially by the new Minister of Blue Economy and SPS and all the leadership that are there. I think everything else that I wanted to say had been said. My take home was, number one, the open registry. Of course, that is a low-hanging fruit for us, and it's something that everybody will accommodate and adapt. If you look at Panama, Panama has, around this region, has got the biggest ships registered under them, and you can imagine the kind of benefits they get from that. The other thing that I was earning for was for us to charter ships and the collaborative between the private sector and the public sector. And the government must be on the forefront of supporting Bandari, because everything that Bandari does comes under the government. Also, cabotage is another thing that we need to do. And as we all know, there's a cabotage cabotage conference that is coming in November. And we have seen a success story of cabotage. For example, in Ghana, they signed the cabotage law into, they signed their cabotage into law, I think in 2022 or something like that. And you can see the benefits that they are reaping without disrupting the trade or scaring away the investors. So that is another thing. And the other thing that Captain Twalib from TUM brought was goodwill and incentives to the shipping lines. And I think this should not more so come from the shipping line, but it will be our institution approaching the shipping line and going into an MOU or something like that, so that the cadets can be accommodated on board. And collaboration is something else that I think will be very critical for us to do. If we collaborate from the various training institutions, not only those who are training the marine forces, but even those who are training commercial shipping and logistic forces, we should all collaborate. Because if you look at it, even those who are seagoing, eventually they will need that commercial knowledge aspect of it when they come to dealing with shore aspects of the situation. And for those who are working with the shipping line, can attest to that. So my take was very brief. That is what I wanted to mention. And because shipping being an international and international trade, we need all to collaborate and see how best we can move forward. And thanks again for the participants and all those arranged inside.
Thank you very much, Elijah. Very insightful feedback there. I think there's something you've really mentioned that I would like to highlight on cabotage. Yes, as a country, I think, and the regulator, Kenya Maritime Authority, is indeed working on a number of issues to do with cabotage. There's actually an upcoming conference that will be seeking to tackle this particular topic on African maritime cabotage, and I'm sure this information will be shared in a number of media. Just to highlight, when you talked about cabotage, there's a report that was published, there's a news article that was published last week where we're seeing that India is actually planning to completely remove its cabotage laws, and this will allow foreign registered flagged vessels to work along its coast without actually obtaining a permit from the country's Director General of Shipping. So this would definitely be a game changer. And when we look at the ship ownership perspective, we don't seem to have a lot of ships in our register. So this is something that, as a takeaway, I think the relevant institutions, of course, the regulator taking lead, we need to look at our cabotage laws. How do we increase ship ownership so that at least we're able to absorb and train our students and allow them to get relevant sea time? Quite a number of comments coming in also from students as well. And Christian is actually saying that we need MOUs between Kenya as a nation and various international shipping lines to open up opportunities for seaboard, for sea training, onboard sea training for Kenyans. Of course, Ajak from South Sudan, thank you for joining us, who's a second mate officer. He's saying that he'd like to congratulate you all for this exciting and insightful webinar. As a seafarer who's trying to my level best to advocate for capacity building and training of maritime personnel and seafarers included, I've learned a lot from this webinar. Look forward to future cooperation between the two countries in relation to the maritime industry. Thank you. Learning institutions creating MOUs, I think that has been highlighted. Someone asking whether there are avenues for participation in international initiative projects that can benefit the Kenyan cadets in merchant navy training. I would like to give an opportunity to Professor Leila to just respond to a number of those reactions in relation to the training aspect. And TUM, I can see there's also issues to do with KNSL. We have taken note of that, and we would be able to channel this to KNSL as well. Professor Leila, please take the floor.
Thank you, Manaulu. I think I should have, now to think back on reflection, maybe I should have projected my slides because it seems like whatever I said has been misconstrued. I'm seeing Didimas Odundo saying that TUM, our marine engineering courses, are not accredited. That is not true, and I don't think I said that. All our, we know at TUM, we do not train any program without accreditation. So all our programs are accredited, including the marine engineering program. But what I was trying to say here, that there are programs and courses, like STCW courses, which we want to launch, but we have first to get approval from KMA. So it didn't mean that our marine engineering courses are not approved, neither are the nautical science courses. They are all approved and accredited by the regulatory body. There was also a question on accreditation by Engineering Board of Kenya. I just want to inform you that and inform the participants that Engineering Board of Kenya is not the regulatory body for marine and maritime courses. So that also needs to be very, very clear. For our courses in marine and maritime, we just need the Commission for University Education and the Maritime Authority to approve and accredit. Accreditation is only by the KMA and of course the Commission for University Education for any university course. So again, I repeat, our programs, our marine engineering programs are fully accredited by all the regulatory bodies. Now, there was also a question on why are we having only one marine engineer to teach. I just want to inform the person who had asked that question that the fact that we have one marine engineer does not mean we do not have qualified staff. Marine engineering is mainly mechanical engineering, and we have we have a big number of people and professors, as well as senior lecturers and lecturers who are mechanical engineers. So the courses in mechanical engineering, the units in mechanical engineering are required by the marine engineer are actually taught by the mechanical engineers. But the marine engineer is supposed also to be there because we have some courses that are distinct and need to be taught by the marine engineer expert. So the lecturers, it doesn't mean that we don't have enough lecturers. We have lecturers in mechanical engineering, we have lecturers in electrical engineering, and they normally teach these students the courses or the units that are required by the marine engineer. I repeat, most of the courses in marine engineering are mechanical in nature, and we have professors, senior lecturers, and lecturers in mechanical engineering. I hope I have clarified. I don't know whether there's any other question for TUM.
Thank you, Professor Leila. I think that's quite clear. The only other reaction I have seen regarding TUM, we have someone here called Moses. Moses is saying we don't have quorum for STCW advanced courses in TUM because of the fees being too high. Please reduce it a bit for us. Pointing to this question, I've seen that in the recent past, with the sensitization and the uptake of blue economy and STCW courses, particularly when Kenya has been recruiting a number of staff for cruise liners, for example, the cruise ships, we've had now banks getting interested in offering financing even for STCW courses. Maybe you can highlight whether we have even helped, for example, facilities that are able to maybe assist interested persons who want to pursue some of these courses.
That is true. We've had currently there's a lot of enthusiasm for these STCW courses, and we have at TUM we have approached politicians also. We've approached the MPs, like the MP from Vita, for example, has agreed also to support some of the students, or gives some partial sponsorship for some of these students. We're trying to also ask other MPs and our senators and so on, so that they can actually come up and be able to help. And then we also have other organizations which we are also approaching. For example, we want to see how GIZ can actually help us with some of these programs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Laila. I think that is quite clear. I also want to highlight a reaction here, or a suggestion. My name is Joel Victor, an employee of Kenya Ports Authority. I'm in charge of bunkering operations at the port and a marine surveyor. And currently there are no programs in the country for draft surveys, bunker surveys, and marine surveys at large. What plans are there to have certifications of the same? Then we also have Samuel Mombura, insightful report with strategic interventions. Following through will be a big changer. MPK leadership could tap into the various frameworks to seek integration of various recommendations. And yeah, we also have someone asking Professor Laila to talk about the Bachelor of Science in Maritime Management Commercial. And then we have James Mwenda, who is saying he's working on a proposal for the establishment of a student self-help revolving fund for COC exams abroad. This will be involving all institutions that offer MET courses as well as stakeholders. The beneficiaries will be easily absorbed in international lines and can repay back the investment. I think what he's asking, what your opinions on this insight? I think that is well noted. I believe that can be responded to. Help also, someone called Christian, saying Help also manages a special fund for professional maritime courses. Yeah, so this is what actually I think I'd wanted to highlight. There's a number of institutions now actually offering various financial resources for people who are willing to pursue some of these courses. So it's important that we all also are enlightened and just seek information. As a country, Sylvester, as a country, we're heading in the right direction in terms of training. We only need to accelerate and provide quality, making sure that we focus the needs of the market, that is the ship owners, and keep the ship owners close, treating them as partners to national development. Very well understood. Someone is also commending TUM. TUM is the best center for marine programs. That's Victor. So I think quite a number of reactions. I would open up the floor to any of the other panelists, anyone who wants to maybe react to some of those questions or feedback. As we almost come to a close, we have about 5 minutes to be able to react to all this. We have great potential in the fishery sector. This is from Jeru. He's saying that the capacity in terms of resources, infrastructure, and skills is limited. Could the institutions consider offering courses in fishing gear, design technology? And also Christian Adika is saying, kindly request to include JKUAT on the panel presentation in future sessions. Thank you for that. Definitely we will be having more regular sessions. As MPK, we appreciate that we've had more than 80 people participating in this webinar, and definitely we will take all this into consideration in our future webinars. So my panelists, you feel free to react or have any closing remarks on this.
Yeah. I just wanted to comment on the Lamu Shipping Cadetship Training Program, the seed time program that we have. We started it about 4 years ago, and we have so far trained over 14 cadets. So at any one time, we have 4 cadets on board, 2 female and 2 male cadets. So that's a program that is continuing. We have AMU2 coming, most likely in November, and we might extend this scheme also to AMU2. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Talib, for that intervention. Definitely that AMU2 would be most welcome initiative. Someone is asking BMA and TUM to initiate hospitality courses and to come up with ideas on how to convert ratings, ABs, and diploma graduates into the hospitality professionals in order to grab opportunities on MSc and other cruise vessels. Thank you for that, Ali. And then we have Kuyo saying, I ask authorities concern, why is it graduates, Kenyan seafarers become harder to have sea time? Okay. Yes, we will also share the slides. We will share the reports. I've seen a number of requests to share the report and presentations that have been made. So long as you registered for this webinar, we have your email addresses. We also post the same on the social media channels for MPK, the LinkedIn channel as well. Yes, so I can see Mr. Kagenzi Aderick, the report is good and comprehensive. It has revealed a number of gaps towards achieving the envisaged goals. Let us identify who should do what and bring them together at the table and chart the implementation plan and timelines. Thank you for that. I think there was also someone who actually said, just curious if there's any efforts being taken for collaboration with prominent seafaring nations. We know that some of the West African nations are running courses where candidates spend a few months of the training program in seafaring nations, giving them exposure as well as increasing their employability opportunities. Thank you, that's noted. Any other reaction from my panelists from the AMPK Secretariat, Captain Talib, as we come to almost closing time?
Thank you, Mwanaulu. I think I saw Professor Leila's hand up. She might be having a reaction before I continue.
Okay, as we allow Professor Leila, I think I can see a hand up from Engineer Kagimbi, one of our seasoned professionals in this industry. The host head of secretariat, are you able to allow Engineer Kagimbi just to be able to make a comment? And then we can go to Professor Leila.
Yes,
okay.
I've allowed Engineer Kagimbi to.
Okay, Engineer Kagimbi, go ahead. You can unmute yourself and just give your feedback.
Thank you, Mwanaulu. I think it's very interesting. This webinar was very, very good. And I think we must thank the head of MET in APK, that is Mr. Talib, for doing very, very good work. And of course, he was able to present the report very well. There's something that I noted, he identified a lot of gaps, and especially that was very, very important, because next time when we are making such a webinar, we'll have updated everyone. And it's sad to see that all what you are identifying is all in STCW. That means we are not implementing our STCW training very well. And it's something that we should work on. I think the one which was very interesting is about transition between a rating and an officer. Because when we are making the syllabus, the curriculum for Seafarer's curriculum, we realized that this is an area where there were quite a number of people who are operating at sea and they were not very well educated. As you know, the genesis for this is that if you put a log in the water, it just floats. So it did not require a lot of education for someone to be at sea. And therefore, when we are making the curriculum with the KCID, we went to a lot of effort. We made a lot of effort to link all those stages from artisan to craft to diploma, and then of course to university. Because we had someone from JQuat ensuring that those who get diploma using that curriculum will sail to university without any problem. So you can see this transition. First, we wanted the curriculum ensure that someone has got enough theory, a rating has got enough theory. So that's why, for example, a rating should start with a craft. Or if he was lower than that, he could have started from artisan, then go to craft, and then to diploma. So this is something that I was surprised that we are not having a course like that at Badari, or rating to transit into an officer. And I think it's something that will need to be looked urgently. Then, of course, the other issue Mr. Talib came up with was the requirement of training institutions for them to comply with the Regulation 1.8 to do ISO 2100. Of course, they can do that because that's the appropriate one from training institutions. But remember, Regulation 1.8 only requires a QSS. That's a quality standard system. What does that mean? It just means that you have a documented procedure, that whatever you carry out is documented, that anyone coming to do the same work will repeat the same thing because it's well documented. Of course, ISO 2100 would be very good, meaning that you are on the higher level. Remember, when we talk about STW, we say the minimum standard, a minimum standard. So for those who cannot do ISO 2100, they could just do a QSS. And that's what we did for Badari this time when we are being assessed. Although Badari now is, of course, going to do the proper one, the QMS. And the reason why they are doing it at Badari, because the previous one was based on KPA. So it's obvious that for those who may have been confused, those institutions which may have been confused by Mr. Talib's assertion that they are not complying with Regulation 1.8, they should realize that a minimum standard is there, which is QSS. Then the other issue which Talib tackled very well was pooling of resources. It's obvious all those institutions lack a resource, one or the other. They lack something that would help implement STW properly. So it's good actually if we could pull together, have an MOU so that they can share the resources that they are having at the moment. Then the other thing is disconnect between the industry and training institutions. It's very, very important for the industry to be involved. And actually, the matter of Merchant Navy Training Board is an industry-led, let's say in UK, is led by the industry. But in Kenya, we do not have that industry. Of course, having Lamu shipping means that we are on our way having shipping lines. And if we can have a Kenya National Shipping Line, because the revival of Kenya National Shipping Line is to provide the shipboard training or on-board training. Of course, there's still some problem to solve before KNSL can get underway. We are trying, but it's still not doing very well. So if we hope that, of course, we thought that we could have a Merchant Navy Training Board, but then it will still be government. In other words, it will be like KMA if it's done by the government. And the essence of a Merchant Navy Training Board is the industry itself, to train the people they think they require. We cannot not emphasize that, because it should be led by the industry. Now, what the best we can do in Kenya is like all these shipping agents to prevail of their principles, to have training. And of course, it started paying off. We remember, like now, Mediterranean shipping has got a lot of, is doing a lot of training. Although, of course, you all understand why at the moment we are not doing very well with the MSC, because of the changes of the things that they wanted, the incentive that they wanted. But still, we can look at it. we can look at it using our shipping agents. And even a company like ESA, like Express Shipping, or Mr. Kututa, could do quite a lot towards that. So that's what I can comment on. And before I forget, I think when Talib was talking about GMDSS, he did not mention RMRCC. There's a training there, which we do offer GOC and restricted operation certificate. He didn't mention those ones, and that's why I thought that I should point out that that's training there. Otherwise, he did very well, and those gaps which were identified should be closed as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Engineer Kagimbe. I think your insights, of course, having been in the industry for quite some time, are very well noted, and I'm sure most of us are able to pick up from your suggestions and those insights. And I can assure you that AMPK, of course, will be doing follow-ups. I'm also seeing a comment on the same almost Tumaini Namoya. Well-researched reports on seafaring and AMPK follow up with the relevant agency stakeholders to fill the gaps identified and also conduct a similar study on shore-based training where a lot of activities occur to ensure cargo is delivered to consignees timely and safely. Yes, I think this is now a challenge to us as AMPK. Definitely, we will be following up, and I think there's also this report has been disseminated to a number of stakeholders, including the regulator. So definitely, as a way forward, I can see Mr. Kututa has asked maybe the best way to end the meeting would be an idea, and what are the next steps so that we all make the progress that we all desire to see. Definitely, the next steps for AMPK would be to follow up, as was rightly mentioned by Mr. Talib, the head of Secretariat. This survey, the research was done and presented, was done in 2022. So a number of issues have changed. For example, the sector, when it comes to a number of placements, issues at Bandari, a number of courses. TUM has also been accredited also to issue more courses. So we will definitely be doing a follow-up on the report and submitting the same report to all the relevant stakeholders so that then we can have a way forward. And next time when we call you for a forum, I'm sure in 6 or 7 months or even earlier, we can be able to report on the progress, and as AMPK, we can pick out our action points. So that will definitely be done. Thank you so much. We've come to the end almost, and I would now, I can see someone also very important point there. Joel Kimutai is saying we have OSMAC that is industry-based in the oil sector that is doing so well in matters pollution. We can borrow some information from them. Yes, definitely. I think based on the feedback we have received, we'll be able to map out a number of stakeholders that we can work with, even for the next sessions or the next webinars we'll be holding as AMPK. Definitely, you'll be able to see a bigger representation from the various sectors, not only the private sector, but also the regulators and so on. And I would also like to thank the participants. I think it has been quite something. Being a first webinar we hosted this year as AMPK, this has been quite eye-opening. We are glad that you're able to make time on a Friday evening to spend time with us and just look at the report and listen to our panelists on their insights and their views on this report. And definitely you'll be hearing from us again. I would like to give the floor to the head of Secretariat, Captain Talib, before I close the meeting with a vote of thanks. Captain Talib, any announcements before we finalize?
Thank you very much, our esteemed moderator, Munaulu. I think the time is almost up, although there was a reaction from Professor Laila concerning the fees for the upcoming STCW courses. Probably I could give the reaction to Professor Laila.
Thank you, Talib. It was just, I just wanted to respond to the concerns about the cost of the STCW courses that are at TUM. I think that's a good feedback. And as I said, apart from us trying to solicit for funding as sponsorship from our politicians, we're also going to review the costs. So to me, it's good feedback, and we're going to sit down and see what we can do about those causes. Another thing I just want to, as we are closing now, I want to take this opportunity to thank the organizers of this webinar and the facilitator, Manaulu. That was very, very good of you. And I also would like to thank Captain Talib for Lamu Shipping for allowing our students and providing seat time for our students. Thank you very much. Asante.
Thank you very much, Professor. And due to what we have seen as feedback, very positive from the attendees, I would put up the email for the head of secretariat at ampk.or.ke for the chat for everyone. And we would love to have your feedback, and also would love to have any new information about the institutions so that we can continue to update and also to get the necessary information on the approvals, and also to help out with the requirements for the STCW convention and code and compliance. And once again, from the Secretariat, I would like to thank everyone for the feedback, and for all the other maritime agencies. We are ready to work with the maritime agencies so that we can be able to take our country forward. The aim of the report is not to make a bad impression, but rather it is a very honest and brutally honest assessment of ourselves, and then we find the way forward. So I'll post the email, and then any information that shall be required can be channeled through that email, and we are ready and open to offer our help where it is required. Thank you very much, and I take you back to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Head of Secretariat, Captain Talib. And as we've come to the end of our program of the day, I would like to give a vote of thanks. And before that, I would also like to pass the apologies of our president of the association, Captain Suleiman Bakari. Unfortunately, due to work-related issues, he was not able to join us, but indeed he has also sent his regards, and he actually planned to be here with us, and he thanks all of you for making time to be with us today. On behalf of the AMPK, I would like to thank our panelists today, Captain Hamisi, Professor Leila, Mr. Elijah Mbaru, of course, the Head of Secretariat himself, for steering the discussions towards this report and making time to actually be able to present this to the industry. I would also like to give a very big thank you to all the attendees, all the people who have participated, and through questions, through listening to us, making time to just give interventions. It's our honor to have hosted you, and definitely we'll be glad to host you in any upcoming webinars, and we'll be keeping you posted on that. We've come to the end of the webinar, and ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to wish you a very good evening and hope to see you soon. Please follow AMPK on all our social media channels and the LinkedIn platform to be updated on upcoming webinars. I know we'll be coming up with, I think we have 2 upcoming webinars from the legal committee and of course from the shipping and logistics committee. So this will be keeping you posted very soon as we confirm everything to do with those webinars. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and we appreciate your presence today. Have a good evening and goodbye.